Well, on today's show, we have Jason Lovins. Jason, hey, welcome, man.
Hey, guys. Thank you.
Well, we were talking a little bit. Well, we already hit record, but we've been talking for a little bit. Man, you're a Kentucky boy. You're a Kentucky boy. Well, not originally, but it's nice to have a bluegrass guy here with us.
Yeah, I claim Kentucky as much as I do West Virginia because I've lived here now more than half my life. And I went to college in Eastern Kentucky at Morehead State University, and I married a Kentucky girl and couldn't get her back across the river. So I learned to claim Kentucky.
When it comes
now, can you settle a little bit? So, because I've spent a lot of time in Eastern Kentucky, like Appalachia and stuff. Got friends and family down there, and there's always kind of this thing. Well, who's more country, West Virginia or Eastern Kentucky? Who's more like country to you?
Okay, so in my mind, that area of West Virginia and Eastern Kentucky, we're all the same.
The same. All right.
We're hillbillies. I mean, it's just true. I mean, there's no getting around it. When my band started traveling and we, started going down south a lot more, I figured out real quick that I'm not a Southerner, but I'm sure not a Yankee either. It was like, wow, I'm in this weird in between. And then I just figured it out that man, we're just hillbillies, and I'm as Appalachia as you can get. So I'm happy to claim it at this point.
Awesome.
Now,
mountains is the mountains.
Jason, to settle another debate, when it comes to college basketball, what fan are you?
Yeah, I mean,
Mountaineers or
no,
Bobcats?
I mean, so I grew up going to Marshall University football games, and I saw every home game that Chad Pennington and Randy Moss played together, which was pretty epic. And then, I started going to college in Morehead, and I figured out real quick that everybody's UK fans. And then there was that select few of y'all that are maybe Cardinal fans. And so, I have to say, and then I went to my first UK basketball game and I understood. I'm like, okay, I get it. It's a big deal.
That's right. It's either black or white.
Yeah. Or blue or red in this case, I guess.
Blue or red.
I don't know. See, anymore, we grew up and we were what's the word? Majorly influenced to be Cardinal fans.
Okay.
And it was Cardinals all the way, bleed red, we're Cardinals. And then I grew up and I lived with two of my roommates, and they were both Kentucky fans.
Yeah.
And I watched a lot of Kentucky ball and U of L ball, and I was like, you know what? They don't have a bad team. Why have I always hated them? I've always just hated them for no reason, but I've just hated Kentucky. And I was like, all right, I'll watch them.
That is, yeah.
Blasphemy.
I mean, it's the same thing when I went to, and I've only been to one, but when I went to my first Alabama football game, we were singing in Alabama and we happened to be off on that Saturday. They took us to a game and I was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And so the only thing I've seen that I feel like is the equivalent is UK basketball. It is just, it's nuts.
Yeah, well, Jason, we've kind of walked into one of the two corners that we're really popular and famous for doing. We either talk about sports or food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So congratulations, we landed on sports with you.
Food will come later.
Food will come later. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Listen, I'm a foodie, man. We could go there.
we will go there. But man, we'd love to talk to you about your band, Jason Lovins Band. Good name, by the way. It's pretty good.
Thank you.
But I was listening to another interview you had done, and you were kind of talking about your story. Would you mind sharing that, introducing yourself to our listeners that maybe have not heard of you before? Kind of introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so I grew up in a little town called Canova, West Virginia. Since this is the Christian Music Guys podcast, I want to know, who is the Christian music guy? Because I think there's only one answer, but it's okay if you have a different answer.
You mean artist-wise?
Artist-wise. Who's the Christian music guy?
Well, I'm from Kentucky, so I have to say Stephen Curtis Chapman.
Fair.
I would say, since it has to be different, Michael W. Smith.
Okay.
Man, it's a toss-up.
Or Rich Mullins.
Yeah.
All great choices.
It's a toss-up between Stephen and Michael because they're, man.
Yeah.
Stephen or Michael.
But let me honorable mention for me, Bill Gaither.
Okay. So my story is this. So I grew up. My grandma had a little gospel group, and we sang at every little tiny church in the country. It felt like. So as a kid, that's all that I knew. I didn't know contemporary Christian music even existed until the ninth grade. And I got invited to the big Baptist church in town, and their youth group was huge. There'd be like 200 kids on Sunday nights. It blew my mind. They had a praise band. I had never seen that before. They were singing this praise and worship stuff, Rich Mullins stuff, Our God is an Awesome God, songs that I had never heard before, and it blew my mind. I'm the kid that, like, I didn't even know you could have drums in the church, right? Like it was like country gospel. Like the normal gospel music group for me was banjo, guitar, bass guitar, no drums. I mean, I didn't know that was a thing, right? And so then in the ninth grade, I'm at the youth group thing. This dude walks in the door. People are freaking out. He always comes and surprises us. It's such a, we love him, blah, blah, blah. And it's Michael W. Smith. He's from my town. I had no idea who he was. He grew up in that same church, First Baptist Canova. Had no idea who he was, right?
Right.
So I go home and I tell my grandma, my mom, like, hey, like, how come nobody told me about this guy? I think he's kind of a big deal. And you gotta remember too, this is the 90s. Like he was a big deal.
He's huge, yeah.
And my mom was like, oh yeah, because I knew pop music, because I knew like gospel country music, and then I knew all the other like pop country, but I didn't know that like contemporary Christian music even existed. Because it just wasn't in my house. Like my grandma was listening to Gaithers and all this stuff, so I just didn't know. And my mom was like, yeah, your Uncle Danny graduated high school with him. Like, that song Place in This World? And I'm like, yeah. She was like, yeah, that's him. So I had no idea who he was, right? And so once I figured that out, it was life-changing for me. And then he would come in and surprise us just periodically all throughout my high school years. And that's where I went to church all that time. And I mean, I have vivid memories of him coming and singing this song that he just heard called Above All. And it wasn't even out, but he just sang it at our church that morning, and things that just blew my mind. So all great answers in my mind. He's the GOAT, right? And
so I had the right answer.
You did.
He's released about 85 albums, I think, or something.
Yeah. I will say we did an event with Stephen Curtis back in November called Mountain Aid. It was this really cool benefit thing. I had never seen him live all these years.
Oh, yeah.
And he absolutely blew me away. And he was so kind. So I am now a big Stephen Curtis fan, bigger than I was. But for me, Michael Dove is
Jason, we saw Stephen at the K-Love Awards. Well, he does it every year. He hosts a new artist showcase. And was it last year, guys, or the year before? I mean, every year he's incredible, but it's like an acoustic set. And he always plays he does a medley of all his hits. And then he does like a few new songs. But this one song in particular that we like a whole lot is called In Living Color off his new album. It is a beautiful song, and he's such a great storyteller. He tells you the story of these songs, and then you're just so drawn into it, and then he sings, and you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
Not just sings. The way he just plays, he could just slap that guitar and it make it sound good no matter what he does. Like,
he's an incredible guitar player.
He is. He is phenomenal. Like, dude could just pick up a cheap $20 guitar and make it sound like
Yeah,
800.
I took a picture that night on the side of the stage. There were his 3 Taylor guitars and my 1 guitar. And I just wanted a picture with my guitar with all of his guitars. So I do have that on my phone. But so that's kind of where I came from. And so as a kid, I never shared my story. I had it good. I knew that I had it good. And even in like middle school, high school, I would lie to people, tell them my dad lived in California because I was good at geography. And I knew that was really far away. And so it was just so much easier to do that, I thought. And, if people asked me, I would tell them, but it just wasn't something I ever advertised or Like, meaning like, my girlfriend in high school, like I was fine to tell her, but it just wasn't something I talked about a lot. Right. And so I sang all my life. I learned to play the guitar just so I could play for my grandma because she had her little gospel group and I just wanted to play for her. And I thought that'd be really cool. And I did fall in love with music at a young age. I mean, in middle school, I thought maybe I'm going to be a country music star for a hot minute. I mean, I'm kind of having that moment. But once I got in high school, I would sing in church if they asked me to, but I mainly just wanted to play for my grandma. And that's what I would do. And then she would have me sing a song or two or whatever. So it wasn't until I got in college and we started this band, and one of our first bookings in front of this tiny little church in Eastern Kentucky one night, I just started sharing my story. And the pastor came to me afterwards and he said, I don't think, and this was over 20 years ago, he said, I don't think you understand what God's going to do with your life, but you got to promise me that you'll keep sharing your story everywhere you go. And I did, and I have. And I could tell you a million stories of how God's used it and over these years. And because we've done a lot of dates, we put a lot of miles on the road, and we average about 40 weeks a year on the road, mostly weekends, but we stay really busy, and we have for a long time. And so I've shared my story, I mean, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of times at this point. And so if you don't know, it's this. My mom at 15 years old, she was raped when she was walking home from the pool one day. Didn't remember it. Months went on. My grandma, she said that she realized, well, let me say this. My grandma said she was chasing around her 4 other kids. She said, your mom was my good kid. And she said, I completely missed it. And I remember when they told me this at a young age, I remember thinking, like, how do you not remember that? And I've had lots of people tell me that when something so traumatic like that happens, that your mind can block it out as if it never happened. So my mom did not remember anything happening. And she will tell you she was very naive for 15. She didn't understand anything about babies, so she didn't know what was happening. And one day she told my grandma, I'm sick, I need to go to the doctor. And so my grandma said, she's gained weight. We should take her to the doctor and see what the doctor says. And so they did. And the doctor come out and said, well, she's pregnant. And after the initial shock wore off, best way I know to explain it to people is I had a praying mama who said, we're going to go to church and we're going to pray. And that's what they did. And if you were to have heard her tell the story, she made it sound so simple. But I understand that it couldn't have been that easy. But I always tell people my grandma very much understood how big God is. And she believed that he's so big that he wasn't surprised by me. So they had some choices that they had to make. And I'm very thankful that they chose life. Adoption was the plan until my mom heard my heartbeat. And when she did, she told my grandma, I want to keep this baby. And I always tell people, I know that my 15-year-old mama had no idea what she was getting into, but my grandma did. And she said, okay, if that's what you want to do, that's what we're going to do. And so my mom had me. She turned 16 a couple of months later and went on about life as normal as life could be. Anytime we do a concert, or in fact, I actually have this picture here on my desk. I show this picture everywhere I go. I don't know if you guys can see it, but this is my 3rd birthday. And it happened to be my mom's high school graduation. And
wow.
It was on the same day. And I just keep this picture here. But, so not very many people can say their 3rd birthday party and your mom's high school graduation party were on the same day.
Yeah.
But it was. And so my family made it clear to me at a young age that you don't have a dad. We don't even know who it is. But you have a heavenly Father who loves you more than you'll ever know, and would just continue to remind me of that. And I've had the honor of telling people over and over and over that it's always been enough, because that's how big God is. And just reminding people, I missed the hard part, right? Like I didn't go through all that, but I'm able to share what I've seen and just how my grandma we have a song called Constant, and it just means so much to me. And I always tell people, like, even in your deepest, darkest valley, even on your highest mountaintop, my grandma very much understood that God is constant and he does not change. Even in your deepest, darkest valley, on that highest mountaintop, he's the same. And the song says, it reminds us and says, God, you're so great, and you're great either way. And And so I've been able to do that, and I could tell you a million stories of how God's used it, and so it's a big part of what we do, and I'm confident at this point that God's put us on so many platforms that this hillbilly kid from West Virginia had no business being on. I mean, we've done like Billy Graham crusades and just crazy things, and been able to travel the country, and I know a lot of it is because I've been willing to share my story. So God has just continued to use it, and we've been faithful and just keep sharing it. And it's been a pretty incredible journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's been 20, you're celebrating 20 years now, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So the original band started a little bit before that. And then all those guys were in college. And as they started to like graduate and think about like real life, I was all in. I knew I was supposed to do this. And so then it kind of became Jason Lovins. And then people were calling us Jason Lovins Band. And I didn't really want to be called that. My wife literally told me, she was like, listen, it's a cool name. And if you have a different drummer that shows up, you're still the Jason Lovins Band. And I was like, all right, let's go. And so we went all in, and we've not looked back.
There you go.
And then coming up, you have Pilgrim Road releasing this.
Yeah, we may push it back. We've got a few things that we're holding up on, and we have one more single that we really want to push before we launch the whole album. And y'all know, I mean, the digital world is so crazy, and this is my 7th album, and so I love making a whole album and putting that out there, but the single world is the world we live in, and so we may push it back a few weeks, but yeah, it's going to come out very soon.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about that album and just the story behind the.
Yes, it being my 11th album, we've done 3 hymns albums. I just love the old songs, and we, started doing that and put a little kick in them, and it's been really neat to be able to, kind of take some of those and rearrange them. And I mean, we did this big youth conference, and there were 5,000 kids, and it was us leading worship, and then Crowder was like the concert that night, and we have this like rock and roll version of Victory in Jesus. And I had like a kid come up to me like, did you write that song? And I'm like, man, I wish. So we've always done that. And then we've had a few original albums here and there, a couple Christmas albums. We kept falling into all these songs in different places. I'm not much of a songwriter. I never have been. But all these songs kept coming different ways. And this song, Pilgrim Road, this young kid, he's a young worship pastor in Missouri. He called me one day. We'd been to their church, and he said, man, I think I'm writing a hymn. And he knew we did a bunch of hymns. And he said, hey, do you think you could help me finish this? And I said, man, I'll give it my best shot. And what he sent me was just amazing. And we kind of rearranged the verses and wrote a refrain, and we literally wrote a hymn. And we really wanted to make it kind of rocking. And so I kept going back to that old version of Come Thou Fount. Do you remember Crowder's version of Come Thou Fount?
So yeah.
Cool. So that was kind of the inspiration for this recording on that song. And my guys pulled it off, did a great job. But the song just shares the gospel from Genesis all the way to Revelation, and just reminds us of this journey we're on. And I started really thinking about where I came from. And I mean, I grew up in a holler, y'all. Like, I was baptized in a creek up a holler. I mean, that is as hillbilly as you can get, right? And just started really thinking about where I came from and kind of where I felt like I wanted to go. And then you look back and you think about all these things, and it's just been an incredible journey. And so we've been sharing that song, and it's been a blessing. I mean, I had a guy, we were doing this big event at a college, and he was our go-to guy. That was like our media tech guy. He worked at the college, and he was in his late 30s, and we had no idea, but we were having dinner with him afterwards. And he told me, he said, man, that Pilgrim Road song just means so much to me. He said, you don't know this, but my wife died a couple years ago of cancer, and I'm raising my 8-year-old boy by myself. And he said, it just reminded me that we're all on a journey, and that God's in control. And he was telling me all these things. And at that point, I'm about to lose it, But yeah, it's just been so neat. And then we really wanted to put out some new worship songs, because that's been a big part of what we do as well. And a friend of mine named Jonathan Turner, he's a young worship leader in Louisiana. He pitched just a few worship songs, and we just were blown away by those. And so there's a few of those on there, but we slid in a few hymns as well on this album. And then we have a song called Constant with Russ Lee from New Song. And that song has been amazing. And so I'm really proud of this record. There's so many cool songs on there that you just can't even believe that you're the one that gets to share these. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah. Russ was our very first guest on this show.
He's the
little
best,
over 3
man.
years ago. And so, yeah,
he is the best.
Yeah, we love Russ. But Jason, could you tell us the story behind the song on the upcoming album, Hide My Soul?
Well, I didn't write it, so I wish I had that story for you, but our friend Jonathan Turner, that's one of the songs that he pitched us. And he said, I wrote this with my friend Daniel Doss. And I had heard of Daniel. He's incredible. We did a few events with him last year, and he's just written so many amazing songs. And that's one of the ones that they pitched us. When I heard it, I basically begged them, I want to record this song, guys, because it just, again, it goes into that whole theme of where this album came together with singing about mountaintops and valleys, and so it just fit right in. And so when we put that song out as a single, and I really wanted to do a music video for that, and I told the boys, I said, I want to find the highest mountaintop we can find in West Virginia. And we went down into the mountains a couple hours and filmed this really cool video, and drone footage and everything. So all your followers, they can go look up Jason Lovins Band and they'll find that video. It turned out pretty cool, but that has been one of the best songs to lead with for us the past we've been doing it for the past couple months, and it's so singable, and it's just a rock and worship song. So I love it.
You said you were using drones. Where? New Jersey?
No.
Da, da, da.
But I'll tell you, our guitar player got smacked in the face with a drone at one point. It was crazy.
Man, it's a close-up.
Oh, my gosh. And I had one fly by my hair, and I could feel it. It was nuts. And our keyboard player had two keyboards stacked up, and they had one fly through. And it was not on purpose. But, yeah, it was nuts.
And you have to pretend they're not there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wow. But we had a lot of fun with it.
So, Jason, we also had one of our listeners from Cincinnati named Paul. He's a fan of the Jason Lovins Band, and he wanted to know if you would be willing to share the story behind the song Turnaround.
Turnaround? Holy cow. Paul. Who do I know named Paul from Cincinnati?
Paul from Cincinnati.
Turnaround. Is that from the Good Morning Glory album? I'm looking it up. I can't even remember.
Now you're just going to make
something
something
up. Happens when you have That's what happens when you have 11 albums.
I'm not kidding, guys. I'm really having to think about this.
So we reach out to our listeners. Some of them, we keep them up, members and stuff. They know who's coming up, and so they have the opportunity to reach out.
Really?
So Paul, when he found out you were coming, asked about that song.
Okay, so that song is on an album called Good Morning Glory. I had to look it up. 2009 is when that album came out.
Oh, that's not that old.
Good year. It's a good year.
And I don't even remember how the song goes, guys. I'm literally having to.
Now,
Paul, this song that meant so much to you.
He really sounds like Michael W. now, because Michael says he forgets his lyrics all the time.
So when I saw him, wow,
he still don't remember it.
I'd have to really think about it. So I really struggled with. I feel bad forgetting lyrics sometimes, and I would have them down on the floor, blah blah blah, and we did a thing with Michael W. and I saw that he had the iPad right there, and lyrics. I'm thinking I don't even feel bad about it anymore. So I put an iPad right there on my mic stand, because we got all these worship songs that we do, and then plus our songs. When we have a new band member or somebody come fill in, we send them 50 songs. It's crazy. And so I don't even feel bad about it anymore after I saw Michael W. do it.
Oh, yeah. If you think about it, at a church, sing the songs how many times, and you have a confidence monitor showing you the lyrics.
Yeah.
And I could sing How He Loves. I think I could hit that. Maybe all the verses too.
Yeah.
But there's not that many songs where I could just know everything. I just start making up my own lyrics. My wife hates it because she's like, how can you be a singer and a worship leader and not know the lyrics to the songs? I'm like, I'm supposed to memorize everything?
I guarantee you I could nail the lyrics to the song Let It Rain. Just saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, our songs that we do all the time, and then even like some of the standard worship songs like Glorious Day, I don't need the lyrics to that. I know that song. There's a bunch that I do know, but there's maybe that one or two new songs. And then like, we'll have a pastor or whatever say like, hey, do you know that song? And maybe I haven't played it in 10 years. Like Turnaround, like it would take me a minute to go back and think about that song.
It would take you a minute to turn around. And
yeah.
So Paul, what he's trying to say is he's blown away because it was such a powerful song that he has to get back with you.
Yeah,
I'm telling you,
let him think about it.
I do know that my cousin wrote that song, and there's several songs on that album that we co-wrote, but that's one that he wrote. And I went back and listened to that album not long ago. I don't know what your other guests have said, but I don't ever go back and listen to our albums because when we make them, you listen to them a million times, and then I don't listen to it again. So I went back and listened to that album the other day, and I thought, man, there's some good songs on that album. I mean, it was 2009, so crazy.
I will say, Jason, before we move into this next segment, I do like your cover of Come to Jesus that you guys did.
Oh, thank you.
It's beautiful, but yeah, I like that song.
Yeah, another fun fact that I'm not singing on that song. That was our guitar player at the time. And he has an amazing voice. His name's Ryan Warner. He's from Cincinnati, and he was in my original band. And then he came back to the band and was in the band several more years. And I just talked to him yesterday. We're still great friends. But he actually sang that song on the album, and it is incredible. I mean, the arrangement, just the way he did it, we still get a lot of spins off of that song because it got on a bunch of different playlists. And that's one of my favorite things we've ever done. And probably because I didn't sing it, but
well, Jason, this next segment is called Favorite Things. Our listeners love this part. They get a chance to know our first time guest. And so we're just going to give you a word and a category, and you just give us your favorite thing in that category. Sound good?
Okay. Yeah. I think I got it.
All right.
Alrighty. Do you have a favorite food?
Gosh, lots of food.
Lots. That's a good answer.
I love Mexican food, but like good Mexican, like Tex-Mex. I love really good New York pizza. So those are probably, and I love a good steak, y'all. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. So,
how do you like it cooked?
I'll be honest. I'm like a medium well guy.
All right. Well, thank you for chatting with us, Jason.
Yeah. I'm not that guy.
We don't know what to say. We're stunned. No.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite movie, Jason?
Favorite movie? I love The Last Samurai. That's one of my all-time favorite movies. But if I go way back, there's a movie called Rad that as a kid was my all-time favorite movie. And I know I'm probably a good bit older than you guys, but you should look it up. It's a BMX movie from the 80s, and it is awesome.
Bill Allen?
I don't know.
Is that?
But
I think so.
So what's her name? Lori Loughlin from Full House.
Yeah.
Uncle Jeff's wife. She's in
Aunt Becky.
Yeah. That's okay. I do know Rad. And I think the reason I watched Rad was because of, if I'm not mistaken, Hot Rod.
Yes.
The BMX. And then I saw Rad after, and I was like, yeah. So, yeah.
We get your 80s references.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite show to binge?
Favorite show to binge. So I'm not, and everybody thinks I'm weird for this. I never go back and rewatch shows. And apparently that's weird because all the guys in my band, they will go back and watch The Office over and over and over. And I'm not that guy.
Oh, man.
I'm always looking for like the next new show to watch. So I can't even tell you. There's some that I would rewatch. 24, The West Wing. I mean, some of those I would go rewatch right now, but I haven't because I'm always just looking for something else.
Yeah. I could see that. I don't really rewatch shows to like excuse me, to like rewatch them, but I will like Friends, if it can play in the background, and like, I'll catch a little bit of it, and I could have seen the episode, many times, and it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not like that. Like, if I have anything going on in the background, it's the Golf Channel, because that's how I roll.
All right. Do you have a favorite artist of all time? Musical artist?
Yeah, I would have to say Garth Brooks was my all-time favorite guy for the longest time. I mean, still to this day, I could probably sing you every song from every album. And I don't know that there's any other artist that I could do that for, but I could definitely do that with him.
Well, this might answer our next question. Do you have a dream duet?
I mean, maybe a couple, but I mean, Dolly Parton, have you ever heard a bad one?
Right.
She's never done a bad one.
Yeah.
Michael W. would be a bucket list. And I've just never had the guts to ask him, and I've had opportunities. I mean, we did a thing with him. I guess it's been 2 years ago now. And we did an event together, and we were kind of leading worship. And then he came out and did like a concert deal. And I got to spend about 45 minutes with him, just me and him. And it was amazing. I just sat there and just listened and just took it all in. And he spoke so many just cool things into me, and told me some awesome stories. And so I probably missed my shot at that point, but he would definitely be pretty high on the list just because,
Yeah. Do you have this is very polarizing and could cause some chaos between listeners and everything, but a favorite ice cream flavor of all time?
Mint chocolate chip.
Okay.
Toothpaste.
Solid answer.
Sweet. Yeah. Yeah.
You're beating up on Jason.
I can take it.
Do you have a favorite podcast?
Well, it used to be some other ones, but I'm a big fan of the Christian music guys. I need one of those shirts.
Well, that wasn't even in the contract. I mean, Jason, is there one thing about you that people don't know?
Gosh, that's a great question. I mean, maybe. I try to be an open book. I mean, anybody that knows me knows that I love golf, so that's probably not one, because it doesn't take very long to find that out.
What is your handicap?
So it's single digits. Yeah.
You like Top Golf?
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I'd rather go play real golf, but Top Golf is fun. Yeah.
Like putt real golf? That's as far as I go.
Yeah.
Or Tiger Woods 98?
No, I do love it. I just kind of fell into it and started playing when I was about 16, and it's always, I really do enjoy it. So, and it's opened a lot of doors. I mean, this is a great example. I mean, the way we started doing Billy Graham events was I'm playing golf in Charlotte one day with a friend of mine, and I get paired up with a father and son. And about halfway through the round, the son said, "What do you do for a living?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm in a band." And then the next question is always, "What kind of band?" And I'm like, "Well, we're a Christian band." And then he says, "Dude, you need to talk to my dad." And his dad was getting ready to tee off. And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Yeah, he's one of the vice presidents of the Billy Graham Association." And I was like, "Oh." And that opened.
I need to talk to your dad.
Bro, that opened a huge door years ago. And this guy just fell in love with us. We fell in love with him. And he ended up becoming like chief of staff. Like Franklin was his only boss. Like he was over everybody. Wow. And he ran the show and totally backdoored us into all these events with them. And so, golf even opened that door, which I could tell you multiple stories. So it's been pretty neat to be able to do that.
Have you ever broken 60?
No. I've broken 70. My lowest round ever is 68. But no, I've not broken 60.
Maybe
not very many people have.
No, not at all. Unless you play best ball with 4 guys, you could probably beat 60.
We have. Yeah. I've done that. Yeah.
I beat my 6-year-old at the putt 18 holes.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
That's good.
So, Jason, what is next for you all as a band, and how can our listeners keep up with you?
Yeah, that's great. So if you go to jasonlovinsband.com or jasonlovins.com, and we're on all the social medias. I mean, look it up, Jason Lovins Band. You'll find us. So we do. We're on the road all the time. I mean, we're road dogs. We have been all these years, and we really do average about 40 weeks a year on the road. And I always tell people, like, mostly weekends. We're gone a few weeks at a time, but we're home enough that our wives still know us and like us for the most part. And so we do stay really busy, and it's just an incredible thing because I don't have a booking agent. I mean, we literally do it all ourselves. And so the Lord just keeps doing it. And until that changes, I'm going to keep running as hard as I can. And it's different every week for us. We're leading worship one week for a big, like, next week or week after, we're doing this big event called Conclave, and there's going to be like 1,500 youth pastors, right? And then we'll go do an event with a bunch of kids, and then we'll go do an event with a bunch of senior citizens, and we'll do a bunch of old gospel songs, and so it's literally different every week. And then we're in churches pretty much every Sunday somewhere, for the most part. And so, yeah, we're hitting it hard. We're gonna push this album all year long, and just go hard with it, and just continue to lead worship and kind of do our thing. And somebody told me the other day, we're like the busiest band that nobody's ever heard of. And I love that because we have been really busy all these years, and it's been just the coolest thing. So I'm thankful to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, to wrap up today, we'd like to see if you'd be willing to share something that God has been doing in your life recently that could help encourage it and build up our listeners' faith.
Yeah, that's great. You know, the older I get, I just am so thankful for the journey. You know, when I was 20 years old, you know, really trying to figure this out and asking God, like, hey, what am I supposed to do? Like, show me, I'll go, you know. And I really meant that. And just the amount of times I look back and stepping out on faith, and how scary that was, but looking back on it and just so thankful for that journey. I was actually talking to a young worship leader just a few hours ago, and telling him the same thing. Like, man, there's so many things I look back on that I really had to step out on faith, because we did not know what was happening next. But we just really believed that this is what God had for us, but also was okay if it didn't happen the way we wanted it to happen. I remember telling, I've been married 21 years, and I remember when we were dating in college, I remember telling her, I'm supposed to do this music thing. I'm fairly certain, but I don't know what that looks like. And all I know is I don't want to be 40 years old and look back and have the regret of not knowing if I could have done this and if this was what really God had for me. And I remember telling her, I think I can live with it if it doesn't work, but I try. But I don't know if I can stand it not knowing. And so the thing I guess I'm looking at now, and just I'm so thankful for that journey and that leap of faith. And so that would be my encouragement, is whatever that looks like. It could look so many different ways, you know, on what that next step of faith could be for you and your listeners. But if God is in it, I have found that there ain't nobody going to stop him, because he's just that big and he does what he wants to do. And just enjoying the journey of what that could look like, you know, because I think so often I hear, you know, these young guys and girls that I talk to, you know, they want to get to this, and this. And I remember thinking, like, and I've told them, all that's great, but like, don't forget about the journey that it takes to get there, and just be aware and be present. And so I'll close with this. I mean, the one thing my grandma would tell me all the time was, you be the best you can be in that particular moment, in that day, because God put you there, and you be the best you can be, because you can't control what's happening tomorrow. Yesterday's already done. So in that moment, you have a choice to be the best you can be for God. And so you better do it. And so if I've done anything well, I've really tried my hardest, whatever platform God puts us on, whether it's in front of 3 kids in Texas, because that happened one time and it was one of the best nights of worship that I've ever experienced in my life, or in front of thousands, doing our thing. And we've been able to do that too. But it's all the same. And if you treat it the same, it's a game changer. So I don't know. That's a lot of rambling, but hopefully you get the point of where I'm going there.
Awesome.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for chatting with us. Pilgrim Road, your all's brand new album, 17th, maybe,
or to be determined.
It's probably going to be just a week or two after that, but very soon.
All right.
And we're definitely going to put another song out in the meantime, because got to play that single game.